welcome to the first ever episode of The Village Hall from Page to Stage.
Well done.
It's I've nearly said bye, George, so many times.
So many times.
Right, so, another musical.
Yes.
You've written it,
Yes.
and Maria's edited it.
Yes.
She's probably done more work than you.
Deja vu. Yeah.
We're back at the Lawrence Batley Theatre in Huddersfield,
Yeah.
and this time we're going through Rich's latest musical, The Village Hall.
Yeah. And we start this journey a little later than we did with By George. We have already a lot later.
Yeah.
We've now already had the auditions. We know what the cast is. And so we're going to bring you up to speed to where we are now. Which is the Tuesday after the Sunday when we announce the cast. So shall we start at the beginning?
The Tuesday after the Sunday.
After the Sunday.
Right, yeah,
yes,
okay,
this is it.
right. Start from the beginning. Okay, so,
Yes.
last time around, you started writing By George 20 plus years in the past.
Yes.
You then went off and did some silly cruises.
Yes.
And had a thoroughly enjoyable time.
I did.
And then all during that time, a certain production company decided that they wanted to challenge the rights to one of your shows.
Yes.
You then won that, and then now are joyfully retired, able to write as many funny and fresh and frankly ludicrous musicals as possible.
Yes.
All with a bit of an inspiration from Victoria Wood. Yeah. So we don't need to cover all of the same ground, because you can go back and watch By George from Page to Stage to learn more about that side of things. So this one, where the hell did the inspiration come from?
This came from Maria.
Okay.
Maria thought of this one. Maria's original idea for the Village Hall wasn't a musical.
It was a stage.
No, it was a sitcom.
Oh.
What she wanted to do was create, because we all grew up with village halls.
Yeah.
We're all from rural parts, largely suburban stuff. And she was mulling about a village hall and how many people come in and out of a village hall and how mad it is.
Yeah.
That you get so much activity.
The versatility.
Oh, absolutely. Just this space for you to use. The linking factor of the sitcom would be the committee, who would have to be welcoming to all the groups and work out how that worked. And I didn't feel comfortable writing that. So I said, right. So if we were to turn that into a musical, because we just had the success of By George at the Lawrence Batley Theatre, where we're filming today, and we just said, right, well, okay, next we do the same and we sort of capitalise on it and do what we're familiar with, but do it in a more productive way.
Okay.
So,
as in not take 20 years to write.
As in not take 20 years and not have so many edits.
So you set a deadline as well, didn't you?
Yeah. We were very strict with this, because we said if we're going to do this, we want to do it within 2 years.
Yep.
We want the production 2 years on from By George. So we've got time to capitalise on the first one, but also have time and strength to breathe some life into this one.
Yeah. Of course.
And so I came up. I then took the reins and said, right, how do we turn it into a musical? How do we get a storyline in there that is an overarching storyline, and how do we compress it into what should be 2 hours? And
2.5 then.
2.5. Also, we had a lot of caveats with George in that it was a one set show. We loved the fact that it didn't have massive scene changes and wasn't unwieldy. It felt right. And so we thought, right, okay, well, the best way to do that is to set this in real time, or as close to real time as we can get, in one afternoon. So why would we only focus on one afternoon?
Yeah.
And so I came up with this storyline about the keys. Now, keys are power in the village hall. If you have the power to open the village hall, then that is the ultimate power, because no one can go anywhere unless they've got the key.
Yeah, of course.
So we did that. And I thought, well, what would happen if someone lost the key? And so it now takes place over half a day, where we've lost half a day. And then to spur the narrative forward and be something original, I thought, well, what if we had to map the morning's activities onto the afternoon, so they had to do 2 at once and become a genuine community, because they had to share the space.
So for those of you who've never been in a village hall or never used a village hall, what you'll tend to find is that that committee that you mentioned, that overarching committee, and everyone will probably remember during COVID that there was that committee that kicked off and went viral.
Yes.
So I'm sure that there was a good source of inspiration there.
To be honest, I never saw the clip.
Oh,
it was after that people said it had
you
a
have no
similarity.
power here.
This is it.
Which is supposed to be fair. Without the key, no one can get in, so there's no power anyway. So for a village hall, what will happen is obviously people will have things like a badminton class, which I'm sure you've attended many.
Of course.
A line dancing class, which I'm sure you've attended many. Ladies' coffee morning, Zumba classes, Scottish Highland dancing.
Yeah, cookery demos, that kind of thing.
All sorts of things will be in there. And ultimately, what you're saying then is that over the course of this one day, because the keys were lost and no one could get in, that means all of the morning classes are having to be reshuffled and integrated into the village hall, splitting out the space to accommodate for two different activities in one session.
Yes.
And that is going to be musically fun, isn't it?
And I think that was one of the prime movers as to why I wanted to do it like that, is because I wanted it to be something that no one had ever seen before and that it would be fun. And boy, is it fun, man. It's putting together these groups, trying to find who would go really badly with which other group. And then the moment we'd written it and we put it together and things started coming true. You know, we did the read-throughs and suddenly people said, by the way, the day after we did the read-through, I was at a rehearsal for an Amdram society and the drum majorettes had to use it because it was raining outside. So they had to share the space with drum majorettes as they were trying to rehearse an Oscar Wilde show.
That's amazing.
One of my mum's many groups she's a part of, they lost the key.
Oh
and this has all happened since
after?
I wrote. Oh yeah. Since I wrote it.
Yeah.
So life imitates art for some reason. But so it doesn't feel as if it's too alien. This thing. It just feels like this is what happens at these gorgeous village halls.
What's kind of nice about this as well is that I remember at the start of this process, so unlike by George, this time around, I was actually at the first read-through. I wasn't one of the people reading through. I was just there as a passenger.
Yes, it was surprising.
Yeah. So now I actually had a rough idea of what happens in this, which is handy, really, isn't it? Because we've started this process a little bit later on. We've already cast the show. Yeah. So we've not done that big kind of drum up beforehand.
We do not have time this time,
no,
Matt.
We've just got
for you to discover it
straight through because
we
obviously
have to know people's process.
Yeah, because obviously this time around we're doing a podcast again, and so naturally I had to play the lead in School of Rock again. Otherwise, what are we doing?
Congratulations.
Thank you. So so and some of the guys from Longwood who I'll be doing School of Rock with the month after you guys do this, they obviously they auditioned and they wanted to be a part of the cast as well. And tell us then. So we didn't get to do an auditions episode, and we'll go through the characters and the plot, and we'll explore the show as we go through. But what did the auditions day look like this time around then, and the launch night before that as well?
Yeah, when you think of the timeline of what's gone on, I mean, we had 3 reads through for the script, and if you remember from the podcast last time, we for By George. We made significant changes after every single read that we did.
Yep.
We were axing numbers.
And the development day here
Development
as well.
day here was very helpful. This time, we were just more professional and more competent about the whole thing. I mean, we genuinely learned from last time that was such a waste of time. And the best thing for me to do was get the plot right first and make sure it worked first rather than, halfway down the line. So we did. We worked very, very hard on getting everything structured, ready and right before we wrote the jokes and before we wrote the songs even. And so that was a very contracted process and incredibly rewarding because it meant that for every read, you were at the one of the first. Was it the first?
I think it was the first.
The first read, and that scored big. That was it was. And we knew we had a lot of tightening to do. But there wasn't anything that needed rewriting. There's nothing that bombed, and the end landed. Because,
let's not spoil the end.
No, a rule for this podcast, folks. We're going to take you as far as the committee meeting,
which is
the final set scene.
Right.
We can take you right
all
up
the way
to that.
to the end of Act 2, pretty much.
It's not that far. There's about 15 minutes to go.
Okay.
So we're not going to spoil the show, but we are going to take you up to date. If you don't want any spoilers, you want to see the show fresh, then what the hell are you watching a podcast for or listening to it?
But still watch the podcast.
Yes.
Subscribe and still watch.
More importantly, buy your tickets.
Yes.
But nevertheless, we knew it was a winner very early on, and we said, right, well, this is going to work. We've nailed this, and we genuinely had more confidence because of that first read. Second read was even funnier, and the third read had an entirely different energy to it. There were less of us there, and we deliberately chose to have 5 people concentrating on just the dialogue. We wanted to make sure it worked pace-wise.
Yep.
So I didn't read all the non-dialogue bits, all the bits of stage directions.
Yep.
We just went for the dialogue and went through it and made sure it was paced. And we have a first act, which is about 55 minutes, a second act, which is about 50. Top notch. That's exactly what we wanted. 1 hour 45 is just right for a show.
Yeah.
So that happened. We've done the read-throughs. Reads through. Got to be careful. I'm hearing Maria's editing voice in my head. No, it's reads through. It's like courts martial.
I've got deja vu's or deja's vu
all over again. Yeah. And after that, we didn't need a development day as such, because we thought there is no point. What we did was have a day at the theatre planning what we were going to do, because at this point, in
terms of the staging,
this staging is odd.
Yeah,
we are in the round for this.
Ambitious for an amateur show as well.
Well,
not many do that.
It's been done at this theatre once before, and it just so happened that it was the theatre's 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
And I was there at the beginning. I was there for the 30th, and I met with the architect who built who drew up the plans for the theatre.
Yeah.
And he said, well, and I asked him about in the round, and he said, yes, it was intended to be that. Because if you've done backstage, you'll know there are an awful lot of doors backstage.
Yeah.
And that doesn't usually happen. You've got doors into the auditorium, you've got doors everywhere. You usually get one door that leads into the auditorium.
One stage door.
Yeah.
And then dressing rooms.
Yeah, but if you look at
that's it.
At the layout of the Lawrence Batley, the idea is that you can get around the whole of the auditorium without people in the audience seeing.
Yeah, I actually had an experience of that as well, because when we did Sunset Boulevard, I went off stage left, ran all the way around up the top of here, which is the above the area, where everyone normally goes in for the stalls.
Same level as the Attic Theatre.
Exactly. Went all the way down and round, and then came out at the bottom of the stalls, and then walked through the stalls up to the stage, exited off, and went back onto the stage, and it's perfectly designed for that.
You can do that in a lot of theatres, but it makes it far easier when the theatre's designed for that purpose.
Yeah.
So I spoke to the architect, and he said, yes, you do it like this. They've taken out the bits that curve around and said, it's fine, we don't need those. We know what we're going to do now.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do with the seating is flatten as much as we can the auditorium.
Yep.
So where the seats go down, that is going to be raised to the level of the stage.
Okay.
And so it looks like a coliseum.
Right. Yeah.
That is perfectly intentional.
Not a catwalk.
No, it's not a catwalk.
Because you're higher, aren't you?
You're a lot higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is seating going to be on the stage. It's going to be like a grandstand seating on the stage.
Yeah.
Which gives us 4 entrances and exits, which is superb for a farce, which is exactly what this is. But also, it's a combative farce. There are people at each other's throats, and so it's going to feel very like a coliseum. It's going to feel like lions and the Christians, and it's going to feel like there is actually a battle that takes place at the end of Act 1. Okay. And I think we won't spoil the plot anymore, but I will tell you a bit more about the process as to then what happened.
Yep.
We'll go into the writing of the music in another podcast, and so obviously click subscribe, and do all the socials, and make sure that you keep up to date, and we'll fill you in with that later. Now we have to talk about the auditions, because they happened this Sunday.
Yeah.
So once we'd done the reads, we'd obviously had a lot of people for the reads, because it's a large cast, and there were 14 people in
variations of ages and voices.
Yeah. That's right. And so we knew that a lot of people knew about this already. We decided to have a launch night, which again was at the Lawrence Batley Theatre. And I expected... I knew that people knew the show already, so I was expecting people, just about 20 people to come in. I came in, and Dominic had set up about 70 chairs.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh no.
And we filled them.
Yes, we did.
And then had to get more.
We did have to get more.
Yeah.
We had 72, 73 people for the day.
Yeah.
For the evening, when we explained what the plot was and explained, if you want to be a part of this, then this is madness. Come and help us do this.
And just like you kind of said, like we didn't have that experience for By George.
No, we didn't.
It was kind of a lot more.
I think we were more scared.
Well, I think it was almost that it was you had a nervous anticipation about it, but also it was very much a Woodhouse Musical Theatre Company and an LBT production. This time around, obviously people from all over Huddersfield and further afield, different societies, they've all heard or seen By George, and they've heard about the success, and they really wanted to have that experience for themselves of originating a part in a brand new musical, didn't they?
It was a lot of word of mouth as well. People had really enjoyed being in something for the first time, and there wasn't a terror of doing something as a world premiere.
Things start ratcheting even further. Easels start flying. People start colliding with each other. It is chaos and bedlam. And finally, just when the gangplank can't take any more, there's a huge explosion plunging the hall into darkness. End of Act 1. There you go. Are you all right if we crack on?
Hopefully, if this happens and the next one goes, then world premieres at the Lawrence Batley are just going to be de rigueur. That's what happens. We have a world premiere.
You heard it here first. The next one.
Oh, well, we'll go into that in a future podcast. But for now, the 70 or so was whittled down, and we eventually auditioned, whittled down by themselves. A lot of people took other commitments. Some people said, I really can't commit to this. I didn't realise the rehearsals were going to be so much. That comes from a theatrical thing where you have a play and you rehearse it with 3 weeks in advance, and that's pretty much it. With musicals, it's an extended process. It is months. It is 3-4 months.
And you know what you'll find as well with musicals is, I'm not sure if you've noticed this as well, or you probably will have done, but it feels to me, you mentioned before that people are choosing the kind of musical that they're going to do, not just 12 months in advance, but 2 years and sometimes even longer in advance.
Mentioned that last week on the podcast.
Yes, last week on the podcast.
The previous podcast. We were dressed exactly the same.
Oh, that's weird, isn't it?
Sorry.
Yes, you did indeed. On the last episode of By George from Page to Stage.
Yes.
Go watch the whole thing again whilst you're getting into the swing of things for the Village Hall from Page to Stage.
Madness.
I'm going to say it wrong one week.
No, you'll be fine.
Anyway,
Sorry,
so especially for societies where, they are... they're doing more than one musical a year. Some do 2, 3, even 4.
Yeah.
And to the point where it's sort of still an amateur society, but it's almost a professional outfit at that point.
Yeah.
But what's happening now is that a lot of people they're holding the auditions process earlier and earlier, and sometimes even trying to do them simultaneously. So you'll do the auditions process before the actual show that they're currently doing is all finished and wrapped up, to allow for them to then just go straight into the rehearsal process.
I mean, time is of the essence, and you need to start hammering these things.
They've got to give you more time to write the next one.
Oh, don't worry. I'll take it. More on that later. But nonetheless, that is exactly what happened. We went straight from while we were doing Boogie Nights, we were already prepping for
Did
this.
the launch night before?
We did before the Boogie Nights show, and so. It was a dream and a joy to eventually whittle that down to about 50 people auditioned for this.
Whittle
for this
73
musical.
down to 50.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a whittle, and we got extra people to do it as well.
Yeah, of course.
So the audition day was enormous.
A lot of people did say that they missed the launch day. So I expect if you'd have had a full house,
would have
you'd
been
have had about 100.
Yes, we would.
So to get that down to 50 for the auditions, That's actually a substantial number, isn't it?
It is, and we expected that. We expected people to come to the audition and to come to the launch day and say, "I'm not having anything to do with that. That is mental.
What on earth are you
what are you
talking
talking
about? Bob and biscuits.
Yes,
lesbians. More on those later.
Yeah. My word. So the auditions came along, and Maria and I have got this mindset that we go into these auditions expecting to be disappointed, but hoping to be amazed.
To be wowed, yeah.
And it was just like George. The memories came flooding back. It was exactly the same setup.
Yep.
It was a colder day.
Was it just up there?
It was just in the Attic Theatre, right
Yeah.
above us. And we had a welcoming committee at the bottom for people. We'd arranged for the whole day to be... I mean, I started setting up at about 8:45. And we started auditioning around 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we weren't finished by 7 o'clock. So I think it went around to about 7:30, the actual auditions.
Bloody hell.
We didn't get a break. We just rattled straight through. And we had a group audition in there as well for people who just wanted an ensemble part. I say just. The ensemble don't know what's about to hit them.
Oh, really?
Oh, my word. If you think that company parts are easy.
Well,
we have secrets about that as well.
We'll get on to that, but I think let's do a bit of a shout out to the auditionees and the audition panel as well.
The standard was immense, Matt. It was. I mean, I to be honest, I knew a lot of them, and I expected nothing less.
I was expecting you'd say it was the best you'd ever seen, to be honest, and I think that the posts on social media, they kind of screamed just how excited everybody is about getting
the massive
started.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But prior to that, the terror of people auditioning yet again for something that they had no idea.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a shame to say this time that because there was so much competition, we really did take people's audition approach at face value.
Yeah.
There was no other way to do it. You can't do it on past performance. You have to look at what's in the room at the time. And so everyone was starting from a base point again.
Especially with something like this as well, because as you said, like when we did By George, it's very much there's no reference point. There's no music to listen to other than the demo tracks they'd given, which was very comprehensive. To be fair,
and I would argue that more so than George, this is not a musical. This is a play with music.
Yeah.
The script for it is genuinely heartbreaking in places,
Yeah.
and really funny in others.
Yeah.
There's elements of farce. There's elements of melodrama in there, and so. You're not going to find the same character beats that you had with George. It's not as obvious as George.
And I think as well, like you've kind of said in the past, with By George, it was very much, it was a family drama housed inside of a chip shop and a pub.
Yeah.
That, the central characters were very much the Booth family.
Yeah.
This is more, even though it was still an ensemble piece by George, this is even more of an ensemble
Very
piece,
much
isn't
so.
it?
It doesn't have one character that is the defining character of the show.
No.
Whereas
you said co-leads at the launch
very
night,
much so.
but it's co-leads, co-principals. It's all collective, isn't it?
And I would argue that some of the principals have less to do than a lot of the company.
Yeah. Of course.
So there it is. That's the show that people were coming to audition for, and so it was incredibly confusing for some people who had. Some had misread the characters and sort of misinterpreted what we were trying to do.
Okay.
And I accept that as a writer as being completely my fault. I do. There's
Well, we should caveat this by saying that when you were at the launch night, you specifically described the characters and their arcs and their songs, but didn't definitively age any of the characters on purpose. Did
Absolutely. We wanted that to be a blank canvas for people because genuinely we could have taken an awful lot of ages. But what we did say is that if we have a young X, we will also need a young Y.
Yeah.
There were a lot of pairs in this one. In fact, when you look at the amount of characters in this, the reason there are so many varied characters is because they often come in pairs.
Yeah.
There is a lollipop lady and a dinner lady called Jenny and Joan, and they always appear together. There's very little they do in this apart.
Like in Calendar Girls, there's Mrs. T and Mrs.
That's right.
Coffee.
They are one character effectively. So it's the same with this. There's also David and Di.
Yeah.
who we'll approach later,
Yeah.
because they're fun. There's also the vicar and the vicar's wife. That's Mel and Jeffrey.
Yeah.
And they're a pair.
Yeah.
But also
Can't wait to talk about them.
our two co-leads
Yeah.
are Helen and Francis.
Yeah.
And they are at odds, but nevertheless they are still a pair, and they had to match. And that was the undoing of a few incredible auditionees who were so good. So good. We could have cast
just
this
wouldn't have worked
5
together.
times over.
Wow.
We genuinely could, with all different people and different people pulling.
Yeah.
And what we had to do was push everything together. And as soon as we'd found one person, that was the thing. It was like watching Domino Rally. No, it was like Domino Rally Action Alley, or because one thing set off another thing, which set off another thing. It was like Mousetrap.
Right.
So the 9 principals all fell together because of one audition.
Right. Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Shall we go through?
Yeah. Let's do
cast?
it. Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's start with that
One big
audition.
slurp before you do.
Have a slurp. Our the main audition E, I would say, was unexpected because she told me she was going for 2 other parts, not the part that she went for.
Right.
Her name is Paige.
Right.
And she went for Helen, and originally we'd had a conversation. She said, "I don't know what to go for. I do not know what to go for."
Yeah.
And
a lot of people were saying that.
Yeah, we'd had because
you'd not given ages. I think
yes,
it opened up the playing field. Didn't it?
And I loved that.
Yeah.
It was after Boogie Nights. She said, "I just want to be in it. I just want to be in it." I said,
And
"Right."
she played Trish in Boogie Nights.
She
right?
did.
Which is one of the main parts.
Absolutely.
As well.
So
Yeah.
we'd seen what she can do, and we knew what she could do anyway.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, she still had to prove herself, and she had to find the right character and the right part. She was going to be Di at one point, and then she was going to be. I think she said every character to me. She said, "I just want to be in it. I just want to be in it."
Yeah.
And then she walked in, and she was going for Helen, who is the co-lead.
Yeah.
And we thought, I have to say, I hesitated and said, "Well, hang on, it really?" Because you told me, and I got you down as Di.
Yeah.
And then she walked in, and it was the right energy. And I know it sounds hackneyed and stupid to say that, but by God, she came in as a powerhouse, and she didn't care whether she got that part or not.
She just wanted to show what she could do.
She wanted to show you.
They're the best auditions. Then.
Absolutely, where there's less on the line,
Yeah.
and she left saying, "Don't care if I get this. I just want to be in it."
Yeah.
And that's exactly. It isn't exactly what we wanted to hear from the character, but it's what we wanted to hear in terms of her energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
She got it, and Helen isn't the character that's supposed to give you the tears in this one.
Yeah.
There's a loss there. There's a sense of loss, and I'd forgotten about that. That this character has just lost someone, but is still being stoic and very resilient.
Yeah.
And that can make you tear up because someone is putting their feelings on the line for you.
Yeah.
So, Paige did the audition, and when she hit a note, a very specific note, no one could look at anyone else on the panel because we were all crying.
Wow.
Every one of us. We all got our goosebumps.
Yeah.
And it was just like Pauline, Nikki's Pauline in By George.
Yeah.
She just stole it immediately.
Wow.
And we all looked at each other at the end of after Paige had gone, saying, "I just want to be anything. Just give me anything. It's fine." And then went. And we all looked at each other. If we top that, this show is just going to be stratospheric.
Wow.
We didn't, and we are so happy that Paige got that. We just because of who she is to us.
Yeah,
she is this joyous ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
That with endless energy and an incredible voice.
So much passion as well.
Yeah.
Like she really
genuinely loves what she does.
Yeah, I first performed with Paige with Woodhouse, doing Rent in 2016.
Oh wow, yes.
And done a few shows with her now, and then she's always had that little bit of unsureness about whether or not she'd be able to play.
She never thinks she's good enough for it.
No, always had that kind of doubt, but then has this cracking voice, and she can act, she can move, and the fact that she's come into that audition, and I probably, like a lot of people, when we did the first read through, see, that one was singular,
yes,
so I can get away with that
you
one.
Can.
when we did that first read through,
the first of many reads throughs.
The first of many reads throughs. I obviously listened and kind of tried to figure out where I would place the characters in terms of their backgrounds, their kind of their status, their jobs, their and their ages, of course. And in my head, and probably I imagine a fair few people's heads, and we'll get on to this when we do a character breakdown episode, but with how you'd framed Helen and Francis as the co-leads, I went into it thinking they've lived their lives a little bit. You know, they've got partners, they've enjoyed their lives, they've had their stresses, they've had their dramas, and so to really showcase that, you need to be either a really, really phenomenal actor, or you need and someone who can play quite a wide range of ages. But really, in my head, and I imagine a few other people's, those characters are 40 plus.
Yes.
In the same vein as what we talked about when we were doing By George, you know, if you'd have cast a 20-something-year-old Pauline and a 50-something-year-old George, it would have felt a little bit off.
Would have been creepy.
It would, yes, it would have been. But I think with this, like you've said, because of the fact that you can cast according to the pair.
Yes.
That then meant that you had a decision to make with Francis.
Yes, it did.
So how did that happen?
I'm going to just nip back to what you've just said there. I know you're queuing up a question for me, and I'll ask you to queue it up again, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
To why Paige and that character now has a different resonance.
Right.
If she's young, that implies that her partner also died young. Very, very young.
That's a dynamic.
Doesn't it hit home?
Oh, that's going to make it even more painful.
You should have seen the audition. Because that's exactly what she said. And there's a song that she sings called Winter Sun. Yeah. And the reason you sing Winter Sun is because your time in the light is so short.
Yeah.
And if it's even shorter because she was young.
Yeah. Not that we specify how old that.
No,
that
you never
Molly
need to know.
was.
You never need to know.
She might have been young.
But there's a fantastic resonance to that song now that we didn't quite have before.
Yeah.
It's even more pointed in the fact that Paige is young.
Yeah.
So, let's move on to Francis and why Francis is who she was. Francis was taken by Becky. Becky is an old friend of mine. We've known each other for a very, very long time. We did shows together. We did The Witches of Eastwick together here, and we knew each other before that because of Becky's sister. And we'd worked together a lot. Becky came in and was Becky. She was just brilliant. But she wasn't Becky. She was Francis. She deliberately dressed with her hair tightened up, and she was dressed really conservatively.
Really? She
the,
came into it.
You want to see the level that people took these auditions to this time, because they knew there was massive competition.
Yeah.
So they knew they had to find an extra level. She used props. She put myself and Maria, who were reading in, exactly where she wanted us, because she knew she was so focused on what that audition was going to be.
I love that.
Oh my God. She blew it out the water. Now there are two approaches with this musical. As I said, it's a play with music.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, and it's a musical as well.
Yeah.
So these two parts could easily have gone to actresses who had good voices, who could hold the song, but didn't necessarily have those soaring, belting voices. But you could play it. You could effectively make do with an actress who could do it. And then Becky came in and just, again, she made us all cry with Francis' journey. I very specifically picked two pieces that were exactly the same. There's a song called My Bobo and Me. And in the first act, it's sung as a love song, to a doting love song to her gorgeous husband, who is sitting at home waiting for her. It's a very Doris Day song. It's got a lovely country lilt to it as well.
Yeah.
And in the second act, we turn it right on its head, and you sing exactly the same song, exactly the same words, in a minor key.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's meant.
We'll have to do a breakdown episode.
Oh, we will. Yeah, that's an episode in itself. So
subscribe.
Yes, indeed. But yes, that was the nature of this rehearsal with the audition as well, because it could showcase Francis' entire arc throughout the whole with one song.
Wow. And
then there was a telephone call that she had to make in the script, which is just a monologue, and it's heartbreaking. And Becky there were some incredible Francis auditions.
Yeah.
There were 7.
Yeah.
And we just... to match with Paige,
Yeah.
anyone who didn't have the pipes was going to be squashed.
Because vocally, you need to be able
I
to...
needed the two of them to be together.
need the
If
same
they'd both been
chops.
actresses with the same sort of take on the songs, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
No, we had the belting voice of Paige, and Becky has...
She's got a big voice too, yeah.
It's not the same voice. It's a wonderful contrasting voice.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
those two have a duet,
Yeah.
which is going to be special.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's Becky. Next, let's get into the pairings.
Yes, perfect.
We have Di and Dave.
Excellent.
Yes. the trouble we found, as we do every time, is blokes. We have a paucity of men who can do the standard, and we got a lot through the door, more than we thought we'd get through the door for the auditions.
Luckily, the key was in the door for this one.
It was open and it was available. So we did have a choice of who to position where.
Yeah.
You understand that with By George, I had to do it because there was no one else to do it.
Yeah. Sadly.
So
Yeah.
this time, the same caveat was there. If we couldn't find what we wanted, we had buttons we could press, and we could call people who hadn't come
Thought
to
you meant
audition.
buttons from a pantomime.
No, God, no. Again,
We had buttons,
No.
which is Neil.
Which is Neil. But Neil and I always said, if we need to step in and save this show and
Yeah.
do the show,
Yeah.
then we will do it.
Yeah.
We also had other people that we could have tapped if we'd needed to. We didn't need to in the end, and I'm so grateful.
Awesome.
Okay, so the person who eventually turned into Dave didn't audition for Dave.
Oh.
The person who auditioned for Dave, who got Dave, auditioned for Jeffrey, who was everyone seemed to audition for Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Because his lines are utterly delicious and so rude.
Yeah.
Jeffrey is the vicar of Cheeley Parish Church, and he is he's a goofball, and he doesn't realise that everything he says has a double entendre nestled in there somewhere. It's filth from top to toe, and it is probably one of the funniest characters I've ever read.
It kind of, from the read-through, reminded me a little bit, only a little bit, but Rowan Atkinson played the vicar in a film called Keeping Mum.
Okay. Yes, I remember it.
Yeah. Filmed on the Isle of Man.
Yes.
With the late Patrick Swayze.
Indeed.
Yeah. But yeah, just sort of doesn't realise how funny he is.
No.
Goes about, he's this, he's just doing his job.
Yes.
He's
And
doing
very
his bit.
reverend.
Absolutely, very reverend. But really funny.
And doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Yeah.
And yes, it is a cracking part. It was the easier of the auditions.
Yeah.
Which I think probably swayed it for a few people. They said, right, okay, well, I don't want to touch that for the audition.
Yeah.
And I'm a bloke, so I'll probably get something. Ned got Dave.
Ned Smith.
Best
friend of Paige Fletcher as well.
Yes, indeed. He was with us at NODA. He's been a leading light over in Halifax. He runs 2 choirs. He is a quintessentially wonderful. Just a lovely guy.
Absolutely.
Someone you'd want around anyway, but nevertheless, he's going to be a very, very different kind of Dave. Largely because of who we cast as Di. Do you want to tell him?
It was Ellie Stringer.
Indeed it was.
So obviously I had a little bit of background information on how her audition was going to pan out.
Indeed.
We were actually on the drive to Bridlington to learn By George. We were listening to the kind of the song from By George for the reef ride, and then we decided that on the drive back from Bridlington we would learn how to do Text Me Sexy Dynamite.
Yes.
And the whole drive we were kind of listening to it on repeat. We were actually listening to Francis's songs as well.
Yes, sure.
Because Ellie was interested in Francis
I'm not
too.
surprised.
And we just had so much fun doing Text Me Sexy Dynamite that she was just like, no, I've got to go for this part. I think I can really have fun with it and vocally just show what she can do as well.
It's Kira's favourite song. Kira's musical director for this again, and it is once more pure filth.
Oh,
there is a verse in the middle about gardening, and it couldn't be filthier. Couldn't be filthier.
So we've got our sausage. And we've got our pickle.
Yes, we have.
And you'll have to watch the show to get that.
Well, no, I really don't think it's that caveat. Ellie is shorter in stature. I think she'll agree.
She is a little bit, yes.
How tall is
Ellie is
Right. Ned is 6'2",
Somewhat,
6'3".
Yes, somewhat. So Ned was our lurch when we did Adam's Family, and
Thanks for
Ellie was the shortest diva by a mile. So they're going to be little and large, aren't they?
And he's going to be nuts over it. So it's going to be great. I cannot wait to see that dynamic. Right, next pairing.
Excellent. Well, should we do the Reverend?
Yes, why not?
Considering we've already given him a little bit of a
Indeed
precursor,
and also his wife, Mel. Right. Cards on the table here. I wrote the Mel as the wife because I had a Mel in mind. Mel was with me for By George, and
she was your tight.
She was the tight artery who I pushed in the face every night.
We're closed
with the same reaction.
Amazing.
And I enjoyed working with her so much. I love her. I think the enthusiasm of her. But also the quality of what she does. God, yeah. If you go to see her in plays, she's never quite the same character.
No.
Yeah, she's always very distinctively Mel because that's who she is.
Yeah.
But I think she's extraordinary.
She has a real... I think it's just this real likeable presence.
So warm.
She's just... You just root for her.
Absolutely.
No matter who her character is, you want her to win. Yeah.
She was in the production of Sheila's Island where she took just a great part, and she sailed it, and she's done it in every single thespian show she's ever been in.
No.
Now Mel was a little bit, can I do a main line, because she has to sing actual lines this time rather than just being in the chorus.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, I vocal mixed the video for By George, so I heard everyone's individual lines. No one meant it more than Mel. No one. There was no one singing Yorkshire born. Mel meant every single syllable, and she knew every word. And my God, she went for it with gusto. Mel can do this, and she can do this brilliantly.
Excellent. So Mel is playing Mel. Or Melanie is playing Melanie.
The huge surprise.
So what's her dynamic with Geoffrey the Reverend then?
A little subservient, a little bit, okay, well, let's do this. But she's also extremely crafty in that she knows that Geoffrey doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So she is his guide through life. She
just slowly ushering him around.
Yeah, absolutely. And he believes everything is his idea.
Yeah.
Of course it's not. As I've seen in so many couples, it's the woman.
He's the pieces of puzzle on the Tetris board, and she's the player.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Slotting
Awesome.
it all into place.
Love it.
So that is Mel to Geoffrey. And Geoffrey, there was a sparkling audition for Geoffrey.
Right.
It was so good. And there was a brilliant audition for Ken.
Yeah.
And neither of them got it.
Oh.
There were reasons on both sides.
We'll get into it. We'll get into Ken in a sec.
We will. The first audition we had that was really incredible for Geoffrey was a guy called Gareth Dickinson, who came in and was so sublimely funny, so unbelievably funny. And Gareth has been he directed shows here at the Lawrence Batley, and he's been part of the Thespians. He's done pantos with Neil. We grew up together effectively. Myself and Gareth.
He was Max's was at Boulevard, and he was the most incredible Frollo
in Hunchback.
Wow!
So my word, this guy can do it.
He can act. He can sing.
Yeah. I
haven't seen him dance much yet.
Well, then he came in as Geoffrey, this bumbling sort of vicar, and he was so good. He was just undeniably fabulous. And Geoffrey doesn't sing. He doesn't. He's got one song at the beginning.
That would be a waste.
We couldn't waste Gareth.
Yeah, you can't waste a voice like that.
And anyway, so there was one other gentleman who came in who was equally as funny.
Yeah.
And just blew our socks off. He was so warm. His name's Patrick. Patrick came in, and Patrick is again a leading light of the Thespians. And is a pro voiceover artist. He's the voice of the second Doctor in the official audio books of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Wow.
He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
He's just beautiful, and we've been friends for a long time. And I'd persuaded him to come along and do something because he'd originally read for Harry and By George. Not for the audition,
Yeah.
just to read. And he knew that it wouldn't be the part for him, but he wanted to help out. And then when we said we were doing another one, he said, "Oh, I'd like to help out with that one as well."
Yeah.
And of course, he read Geoffrey.
Yeah.
He didn't read it in the way we thought it could be read. He read it more like a Derek Nimmo vicar, sort of. Oh yes, oh dearly beloved.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So he's got that lovely low drawl, which isn't how we pitched it.
I think that was the read-through I was at.
It probably was.
Yeah, and I thought that at the time. I was
Funny.
like, oh my word,
Yes,
that man's voice is
It's
velvet.
Oh yeah. Now you've got to imagine him with Mel.
Yeah.
There was another reason why we decided to go against Gareth for that part.
Yeah.
And it was because he was actually the same energy as Mel in
Yeah,
a way.
and you need
so they were
some-
both.
Yeah,
and,
you need them all to yin and yang.
Yeah,
with each
very
other.
much so. So
Yeah.
again, it was the pairing thing, and Patrick was just just godsend, literally. Thank you for Geoffrey. So Patrick is going to be Geoffrey, and Mel is going to be Mel, and I can't wait to see that.
So that means
Ken.
we're on to Ken.
There was an exceptional audition for Ken, and it was done by video, and it was John Danbury.
Yeah.
There was also a brilliant audition done by Alistair Cheetham, who again is a leading light of the Thespians.
Yeah.
We could have had either of those two.
Yeah.
We could have, but I'm afraid I did foresee this coming, and I said, okay, as Gareth was leaving, I just said, would you mind just reading a Ken line for us?
Yeah.
And so he did a full phone call. It's a full page of dialogue, and he did it flawlessly.
Wow.
And he did it right. It was really right.
Yeah.
The issue with us not taking John Danbury, who was with us in Boogie Nights
yeah.
and did so well,
Yeah.
and was loved by the cast, absolutely
yeah.
loved. He's got a very special nature as John. He video auditioned in, and we all said, "Oh, you bastard," because we knew that he'd already got Gomez
In Adam's Family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had commitments throughout the whole of August, which meant he would have missed every rehearsal in August. We couldn't do that. Not to John. John would have been fine, but to the cast, it's unfair. If you're doing a farce and someone's
need
missing,
that person to play off
you do.
as well,
You
yeah.
do. It
Yeah,
would
yeah.
have been massively unfair
Yeah.
for such a pivotal role as Ken, who is a swine and a rat bag. And we said, no, this has to be done right, and we cannot take John. That audition was something, though, because it was. John can be so affable, and yet he was so slimy at the same time. It was wonderful. So, John, bye. Alistair, bye-bye. Sorry, man. But it was Gareth who got it. Wow, did Gareth get it.
And he will absolutely smash that vocally as well.
There's a song at the opening of Ken called Ken's Here, where he announces his presence. I'm waiting with bated breath to see what Gareth can do with that, whether he does it low, high.
Well, this
there
is
is
the
options
thing.
with keys.
The guy has such a huge range. Funny little story that I had from Martin. Little shout out to Martin Stead there. Martin said to me that Gareth, before we did Sunset Boulevard, hadn't actually sang, and I mean at all, not even in the shower, for over a decade.
I mean, he smashed
And
that.
then does that part.
came out. You see, I only know Gareth as a singer because
Yeah.
when he started with us 30 years ago,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was in choirs with me,
Yeah,
and doing various bits and pieces. At that point, he was always that. He was always this breathtaking.
And then he's got
voice.
into Huddersfield Thespians and done
Yeah.
acting and stuff,
And
and
directing.
directing and incredible. So, playing opposite Gareth.
Yes. That the three of them were very much very easy to cast. So that's our Ken, and our other pairing were the most fought after. They were Joan and Jenny, the dinner lady and the lollipop lady. Again, the auditions were easier than some because you didn't have to learn masses of dialogue or get nuance.
So you said before that they basically come as a single character.
Yeah.
So were they auditions as individual auditions, or were they as
Some
pairs?
were. Some decided to audition together to see if they could get it as a pairing.
Nice.
Which is a lovely touch, and that was done via video auditions. And again, every time you got a Jenny and Joan audition, it was funny.
Yeah.
But there was one lady who actually did the read-through. Was she at your read-through? Was Louisa at your read-through as Jenny?
I think she was. It's hard to remember.
We remembered because it was unbelievable. And
Yeah.
she hit when someone's a comedic actress and hits every comedic line, you know there's quality there. Louisa has an incredible set of pipes as well. She can sing.
She does. Yeah.
And she is amazing in everything she touches.
Do you know what? Special shout out to her in Hairspray.
In Hairspray, yes.
I actually went up to her and her daughter Zoe, who was also in the cast, and I said to Louisa, because she didn't play a main part.
No.
Louisa played lots of supporting characters, so she was featured ensemble. Every single one of those characters was nuanced. It was different. The accent was perfect.
Yeah.
She had the energy. She just caught the eye straight away, and she was brilliant. And I actually said to her, I've got a project in the future I want to do. I want you to do it with me.
Oh, right.
So, more
on that later.
But yeah, Louisa, incredible.
Again, great auditions for Jenny.
Yeah.
Really great. Louisa, in the end, she was, I'm sorry to say, head and shoulders above everyone else because there is a line, and this didn't get her the part. She had the part. She really did. She'd got it by this point because we just fell in love with her.
Yeah.
And there's a part where she plays a fairy godmother in the pantomime.
Yeah.
Within the show. And her entrance is meant to be met by a puff. And
you weren't there.
I wasn't there. and the line is within the song. She pokes her head around the curtain. She says, "Is there a puff?" At which point, Mel, who is currently going, because she's a stage manager, is stressed to hell, suddenly goes, "No, just say puff!" And so she goes, "Puff, I am your fairy godmother," with an angelic, and
Louisa's probably tapped into all her years of pantomime experience in that.
And every single moment came back for her.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So Drop Dead, she was beautiful, and that gave us the issue for Joan.
Right.
Again, it came down to pairs. There were some utterly astounding auditions for Joan. Some didn't get it. Some didn't quite get the part right, and missed a few beats.
Yeah.
But on the whole, they were all top notch. There were loads of things you could say. Yeah, we could easily have used you. But the moment we cast Louisa, you needed an absolutely. Jenny is the least. Well, of the two of them, she's the most. I wouldn't say repressed. She's not that, but she's a little more demure.
Right. Okay.
Joan is balls out, and if you've got Louisa there, who can do that, then you need an extraordinary character. And someone walked in 3 auditions from the end.
Yeah.
Who we'd never seen before. I've seen her before. Yeah. She used to play tennis with me. Yes, and I haven't seen her since.
Wow.
And she's.
So it's not a theatre friend from years ago.
She's been in the theatre, but she's been playing with Honley players.
Yeah.
She's done a few bits here and there, and Charlotte bounded in with this massive energy. Yeah. And we were all by this point it was about 7 o'clock. We were on oh my word, we were on our last ebbs of having laughed and cried with these people.
In need of a drink and some food.
Absolutely, and then suddenly this walked in. Wow. Charlotte was. She came in. She's a dinner lady, not in real life. Yeah. Joan is a dinner lady. Yeah. And she came in a tabard, with a name badge and the hairnet, and she started, cooking, and we thought this is insane. And she'd just run the London Marathon.
That's literally not the character.
No, she'd run the London Marathon the week before. Of course she had.
Why not?
And honestly, we thought, we've got a Joan, we've got 7 Joans. Yeah. But we didn't count on that. Yeah. And suddenly, she bounded in. There she was, Joan, right there, standing right there. And all of us looked at each other at the end of the order and she said, okay, well, that's that then. Because those two together, if you imagine Les Dawson and Sissy and Ada and Roy Barraclough from I've just come back from Greece. Did you have the shish kebabs ever since I arrived?
I've literally just come back from Greece.
and just beautiful. Yeah. And those two are going to be dynamite.
And they've never played opposite each
other
before.
Well, no one's.
Which is going to be.
We've never seen. Charlotte's never done a show here. Yeah, she's never done a musical.
Yeah, wow, bloody hell. So that's going to be quite exciting to see their dynamic grow over the course of the
Yeah, but if you look at who Charlotte beat.
I mean, wow.
A lot of our, biggest friends and a lot of the people who were in By George. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Suddenly it had to be Charlotte for no reason other than she matches
just
perfectly with
smashed it on
Louisa,
that, yeah.
and she smashed it on the day. It's encouraging to have a society and a theatre that is willing to take a risk on not knowing people and just going with what they come away with at the audition.
Yeah.
It's more professional.
But like you said, that's how it would be, and that's how it should be.
It's how I think it's how it should.
Ultimately, you sometimes think of the backup plan. Like you said, if you didn't end up getting a David,
yes.
Then you have your backup plans, your insurance policies. But ultimately, what you really want out of this experience, what you want out of any amateur theatre auditions process, is to be wowed on the day.
Yes.
And it sounds like there was more than
there was a wow every half hour. It was stunning. We're going to wrap this up in a moment, folks. I do want to say that the people who didn't get the auditions and didn't get the parts they wanted, I'm so sorry. You were outgunned, but you weren't outclassed. Genuinely, it was a powerhouse audition. We were exhausted at the end of the day, not because we were tired of watching people do the same thing, but just if it had gone on for another day, what the hell would have come next? It was a beautiful thing to watch, and a real the privilege of having your stuff read by so many talented people was extraordinary. It means because people have said, look, we just want to be in it. If we didn't get that role, okay, fine. Next.
Gave you a real hard job to cast the ensemble by the sounds of it.
The ensemble we had to cut as well because we can only have so many people in the show.
Yeah.
So there are people who went for these extraordinary parts and did beautifully and didn't make the cut for the company. So we had a set number in our heads of 35 for the company out of 50 auditionees,
including the nine principals / leads.
Yeah, so we were jiggered.
Yeah.
What could we do? So in the end, we devised a line and said, right, okay, we'll ask people if you auditioned for the company, you were given priority for the company, and we had about 5 auditionees for that. Two of which thought they weren't good enough for it and dropped out anyway.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so if we thought they made the grade, they went into the company.
Yeah.
And then we had the rest were filtered from all the people who'd auditioned for everything else and said they'd like to be a part of the show. Yeah. And again, there was a cut-off point for that. So some of those didn't make it. And so we end up with a company that is stellar. Yeah. There is, I think, every single one of the featured company, the people who have lines, have actually played leads on that stage.
Wow.
We've got Sharon Whitehead. We've got Nikki, Niovi. We've it's insane.
Who've just been leads in
absolutely
in Hairspray for Sharon, and then obviously by George.
Also, you've got friends from my youth like Sonia coming. We'll do an entire podcast on those people and those that incredible talent. And then there's your general company, and they are brilliant too. It's going to be one hell of a show. Cannot wait.
We'll just have to find the keys, won't we?
Indeed, we will.
Right, I think that pretty much wraps up episode 1, doesn't it?
The bells have rung, and that's our time for the...
No, that's Mel reminding Jeffrey she's...
Yes.
Oh, isn't it time you ring the bells?
You're due in the vestry. Folks, welcome to our podcast ride. If you want to subscribe, then please feel free. You can also find details at richsykes.com. Tickets are now available.
Which is amazing, because last time we had to wait. Yeah, this time you can just buy tickets straight away.
The LBT.org. Don't be afraid of being seated on the stage, because, you're being sat on the stage, but you'll be as exposed as everyone else in the auditorium. You won't be lit. You'll have a wonderful, wonderful time and a great view wherever you're sat. So please book now.
Excellent. All right. Until next time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.